Ansley Schrimsher. Did I say that right? It's an interesting name. We need to find out where that came from. Ansley. I think my accent, I just blame my accent on it. Ansley.
We can blame that on everything.
Ansley Schrimsher. I'm CEO, designer, Dora Mae Jewelry. Another one of my work friends that if you don't know her, you've been living under a rock. She does amazing, beautiful things with jewelry. And what I love about it is they're all kind of unique and individual, and she custom makes. I think she says that she's made over 35,000 individual pieces.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not that creative. I couldn't do it.
I know. And she started off in garden design. So, and there's a story about the transition there. And I saw some other things when I was reading up on her that I didn't know about her today. And this is what's so great about what we're doing right here. And, people are doing incredible things. And all these women that are just, breaking the mold and everything. What I love about Ansley's work too is that I'm not really a fine jewelry person. Occasionally I might wear a couple of diamonds, but I'm a cheap date. I do. And she has a fine jewelry collection too, which I love. So the antique pieces that she goes hunting for, they all have a story, and she'll tell you herself the story. Right.
She has passion for it, obviously, and knows the information and researches and can pass on the history behind it.
And the love of it. And
right.
So for some people, jewelry is life. And there's a lot of poetry and a lot of love in this. So she's another bright, sparkly, colourful, beautiful person that I wish I was more like, but I love to watch from afar. So I'm looking forward to her bringing her sparkly joy to the sofa today, and can't wait to chat with her.
Yes, it'll be fun to have her.
Hello and welcome. My name's Kerry Sheffield, photographer and CEO of my own successful business. I'm also the host of She Networks, a great believer in lifting up women and loyal supporter to those that are around me. We're all surrounded by incredible women who are breaking the molds in this thing called life. Behind every successful online persona is a real person facing struggles, failures, and living real life stories that don't always have happy endings. We will have an honest conversation, dispel this myth of perfection, and find out what they consider a success, how they achieved it, and learn what they are still reaching for. You are not alone. Join the conversation.
Well, hello, Ansley. And I'm going to blame my accent in the fact that I keep mispronouncing your name. Ansley.
It's how you say
Schrimsher.
Beautiful. Schrimsher.
Schrimsher. Yeah. Well, tell me where that came from.
It is.
Schrimsher.
Oh, gosh. It's Scottish.
I knew. Schrimsher. Now you tell me. I could have done it.
Skirmisher. It was like they were the...
Do you know what a skirmish is? It's like an army,
Yes, that's what they were. They were the beginning people in, battle. They had,
I was in the engineers, and there was a skirmish.
Right, yeah.
Well, I didn't fully qualify. I was the very first girl allowed in the Army Cadets, the Royal Engineers, in the UK. I looked like a boy, but I was the first girl. People called me Sunny Jim.
Right.
That's because my mum lopped all my hair off really, really short, and I had no boobs, so I looked like a boy. And I say about the no boobs because when you wear an army jumper, it is really tight and hard. But yes, skirmish.
You got a uniboob too.
Oh, it wasn't even that.
It's my favorite.
It was like a crease in the ribbed fabric. Like they were like cardboard, those sweaters. But I really wanted to go into the army.
Wow.
Didn't get to. But no, okay. Yeah. So was this your married name?
Mm-hmm. Married name.
But where is your family from? I feel like there's some exotic background.
It is actually very not exotic. It's
although your mum did remind me of Barbara Cartland.
Yes, she is. Well, let's see. My dad Fletcher is purely English.
Okay.
So arrow maker Fletcher. He loves all English history. And my mom was a Shakespearean English teacher. That's where she got my sister and mine's name. So we're very English.
Well, charming and English, they go together. Right now, you are the CEO.
Yes.
What did you call yourself?
Chief Creative Fairy.
Chief Creative Fairy. And I love you have all those descriptions on your website of Dora Mae Jewelry.
Yes.
Now, it's kind of it's been 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you've been 10 years in the shop, which a beautiful space, and so many wonderful things and not so wonderful things have happened at the shop too. You've been a victim of people trying to steal your joy. Go back before then. Tell me a little bit about you before all of this.
Before Dora Mae?
Yeah, before Dora Mae. I mean, I've only known you since Dora Mae, so yeah, tell me about young Ansley and what she was doing and what her dreams were.
Love that question. Young Ansley was a interesting combination of like sporty spice. So I played basketball
Posh.
and yeah, you are posh. What am I even saying? You totally understand.
But I get called scary, but yeah.
And so I was equally, had a love for sports and basketball and tennis and track, and I just softball. I literally played every sport I could possibly play, but then I also always loved fashion. But it's just so funny. People in my old life, or people in my new life, are like, "Wait, you were really into sports," and that comes out now in my workouts and like CrossFit.
I know about the CrossFit,
but
yeah, the competitive sports. It's a whole different mental game.
Totally.
I just figured that you like fashion and you like to look so good that I don't know why we're sitting next to each other, but the body thing. I mean, you certainly do make me think, I should really use that equipment that I have in my own personal gym that really just sits there. But yeah, I mean, you are an inspiration.
Thank
you.
You
were interested in competitive sports.
But then I was just telling the story, I had this obsession with never wearing the same thing twice for 365 days. Working with a limited number of items. And so this was when I was in like, 6th and 7th grade. So I was really
Where
into.
does that come from?
I know. I don't know. I just had it, and I would steal stuff from my sisters in my mom's closet. And they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I don't have quite enough to make it all the way through the whole year. So I'm going to need to borrow some things." So it was, to me, all about, a different perspective on the same thing. I felt like even as a young child, there are an infinite number of ideas in the universe. They will never run out. I must try to have them all.
I feel like you are a beautiful version of Weird Barbie. Do you know what I mean? Because Weird Barbie was my favorite.
Amazing.
Weird Barbie was my favorite.
I will take it.
But they made her look a little bit, but
I'm cool with that.
But weird in the prettiest way, like, because Barbie's always so conformist in all of her different genres,
Totally.
like, playing Barbie and whatever. I never really was into Barbie. I was more of a Cindy because I'm,
Yes.
chunkier and I have dark hair. But, Cindy was chunkier. But yeah, Weird Barbie was the fun one, right? And you
Totally.
could chuck an outfit together and make it look different. And you take all these pieces of jewelry and you make them look a beautiful,
Yes.
So next Halloween, I want to see Weird Barbie. There was a few this year. Let it die down and then you can come back in.
I'll do my own take on
Yeah,
Weird Barbie.
exactly. But so you were doing sports. Did you ever go into it competitively? Were you ever
No.
doing any?
I quit my senior year, went to college. I wanted a big college school experience, went to University of Florida. I just wanted to go to the football games and
What were you
be in
doing
a
there?
small. I actually majored in journalism and ended up.
Jealous.
I know, and that's kind of coming back into my life now, the
Yeah.
whole writing thing. But and I still love to write, and I've always loved to write. So it's kind of just been a hobby. But
Yeah.
it was sports, fashion, writing.
Well, that's a creative enterprise, right? And I've always enjoyed writing. I really wanted to be a journalist. Left home at 15, missed that opportunity. Became a photographer at 31, 32. So, and you see my project. So for me, writing, it's come about, and I need to do more of it. I think I want that to be the bigger part of my work and images less. But, when I used to do a project, I only used to take one image.
Right.
And it wasn't 50 takes, it was one image. So really the words came first. But you were also a garden designer.
I was.
Obviously I went away and stalked. I did a little bit of research. So I'm
was a
like,
garden
I'm reading
designer.
this stuff and I'm like, oh, okay. So, so you're entrepreneurial in spirit too.
Yes, I do. And
So you've traded mud under your fingernails for diamonds on your fingers. Yeah.
You know, and I never got super hands dirty level. I always tried just to have the vision, the overall vision, which I love.
Oh,
and,
so yeah, you had the CAD designs.
I still love, actually, no, I took a class in CAD and decided it stole my soul and went all to hand drawing. I even used to watercolor my garden designs because I just wanted it to be beautiful and to to translate what was going to happen, because it's
You're
hard
an artistic family, so there must be some of that.
Totally.
Well, your mother was Shakespearean.
Yes, she was an English teacher, but she's also a painter. My sister's an interior designer. My other sister's an artist. So
I know, I love that. I have this vision of you wearing daisy chains and doing ring a roses in the garden and spinning and stuff. The English, the maypole, like that kind of stuff. It must have been an interesting.
I like that image.
Well, I'm thinking of Shakespeare, Pride and Prejudice. Totally. You're all sitting around knitting and singing and I have all of that, and that's wonderful. So you were doing garden design.
Yes.
And I'll let you tell the story of how Dora Mae came about.
So I did all my work on my home dining room table. All my landscape designs were, sprawled out because they take up a lot of space. And once my grandmother moved into her nursing home, we found all of her boxes of antique jewelry collection. And there was 15 boxes. So we sprawled it all out all over her bedspread. And it was just the largest, most beautiful collection. My grandmother had a 3rd grade education, but she was incredibly creative, had impeccable taste, but she didn't have a lot of income, so she would buy everything for 25 cents. She had a story for everything, how she got things. So everything just felt so soulful and so connected. She was connected to every single piece. So we just loved, I'll never forget that day. It was a huge day in my life. So I started taking those pieces and updating them for my members of my family, just so they had a memento of Dora Mae, my grandmother. And just the process for me of giving a little bit of new life into the old pieces was so inspiring to me. And not only that, is that I could create something and then it be worn immediately. So it just felt so satisfying and so rewarding. So then I started getting in little Ziploc baggies, because that seems to be what everybody keeps their heirloom jewelry that they don't know what to do with. And I had 30 of them sitting on my dining room table of just things that people would drop off in my mailbox, because they're like, I saw what your mom was wearing.
Make something amazing.
Yes, yeah. I saw what your sister was wearing. So I looked over and I was like, I have 5 landscape designs on my table and I have 30 bags of jewelry. I'm like, am I a jewelry designer now?
Yeah.
I must be one. So that happened to me definitely more than I never planned on taking that route.
No, but it is wonderful. And I think I've never been into jewelry at all. And maybe back in the 90s or something, oh God, this is so terrible omission, to admit this, but admission, sovereign ring, a smaller one, like the girls wore a signet and the boys wore a sovereign, because we were classy, and huge Tiffany, the chain lock thing with the padlock, let's wear a dog collar, why don't we? And not to say anything bad about Tiffany, I think you're amazing. And all these, super long chains. Actually, no, you do it in style. They're layered, but they were a long chain with a big,
pendant on it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So jewelry was never a thing for me. I wasn't really into jewels and diamonds and stuff, but I've started to wear it, and I'm going to credit you with that, because I've probably got 3 pairs of fine diamond earrings. My husband, bless him, has bought me, and then our other friend, jewelry designer that we're both friends with, Stacey Papp. She, bless her heart, she's tried to educate my husband in buying me pieces, but she's trying to educate him, but really I was the one who needed educating, because everything was so fine, and I just felt like nothing was my personality. And I'm wearing something now I found in a thrift store in Paris, just a thing. I like a little statement piece. I like just a thing that I would grab, and I've got a lovely Art Deco ring of yours. I have to see it. I will never stop and look in a jewelry store window. It has to find me. It will just appear. But I do love you. I don't know, the fact that it's not a massive investment.
Totally.
For most of your pieces, you do have your fine collection. Means I can have a play, and because they're unique pieces, I can stay true to myself in the fact that I like to not have anything that anybody else has, because I'm just weird like that. So the fact that I generally wear black and I can throw on a little bit of your unicorn dust on my ears or something. Yeah. I feel like I need to get into the layered look now, because, you know, I'm getting braver in the décolletage area. So, yeah, I need to throw a bit more of that. I feel like I can play with it. It's not disposable jewelry by any means, but it's affordable and you can have fun with it. Every time I wear anything from you, everyone says, where did you get that from? And I know they come see you in your beautiful palace that you have all your priceless jewels in. So, you know, I think that, yeah, you've opened that up. There's a lot of junk jewelry out there. And when I say junk jewelry, I mean cheap, tacky, nasty pieces that'll turn your ears green. And it's there and it's fine. Our kids wear it. I mean, we won't talk about that big brand store that took over the world that also sells light up fairy ears or whatever. You know the one I mean. Yes. So that's a little introduction. Mm-hmm. But for a similar price point, they can come to you and get something much nicer.
Totally.
Yeah, that isn't.
What you're describing, and you're just my ideal client in that way, because
and I have room for jewelry.
Well, you're soulful, right? Like you go about your life in intentional, soulful, storied way. You love things to have a meaning and a connection, and so when that is someone's bent, if someone wants just really sparkly things, there's 100 ways to accomplish that, but the niche that Dora Mae is that sparkle, but with soul.
Because just sparkly things actually leave me cold. I can't connect on
Same
any.
I'm
like, amazed at people when they look at a big old rock and go, and I'm like,
I don't.
Give me a camera lens or a pair of sneakers. But yeah, you know, isn't it funny? I have to feel something.
So do I.
And
yeah, and I put that. I can't create something that I wouldn't want or wear. And so I put my soul into the pieces for a reason, you know, and when people connect with it, then, you know, people come back to you over and over. I'm like, that's because there's connection. And and I know we'll get into the creativity thing. With creativity, when there's connection, there's power. Yeah. And with power in that sense, ends up being loyalty, because there's a relationship. Even with jewelry can be all about communication, and communication can be all about connection, and then that there's a relationship that forms over time. And so that's kind of how I've had my business.
And you've added a whole deeper level, and I know you're doing that more, and we're going to talk about that, but I'm not before. I found out something today that I did not know.
Okay.
But makes me love you even more. Women in Madagascar. I had no idea about this. And I was like, bloody hell, how did I not know this? You know that's like right up my street, empowering women. And this whole empowerment where, you know, taking away the need for charity so they can support themselves. That's a big story. How did this happen?
It's so cool. I had a friend who came to me just saying, we have a group of women who we really need to teach a skill, and we could teach them sewing, but with the environment that they live in, it's really hard to keep things clean, and there's just a lot of crafts that you can learn. But again, jewelry, you can really keep it clean. It's easy to wash it, whatever. Will you come teach them? And, you know, at first I'm like, I mean, going to Madagascar to teach women, I don't know. It just seemed like really out of my wheelhouse. But, you know, over the next couple of weeks, I thought, you know, I'm supposed to do this. This is exactly what I'm supposed to do. So I went with no other agenda than to just teach. And then once I taught the skill, and they were amazing.
And the skill is?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Jewelry, bead wrapping. So it was a very simple skill. I mean, simple enough. And brought all the tools, brought all the wire, the beads, all of it. They have access to a lot of beads over there. So I was thinking, this will just be a way that they can string it all together and make earrings and necklaces, and it'll be awesome. And they are and can do that. But ended up just loving them, finding a coordinator, like a mom, who kind of mom of the group, basically, who brought them all together, and then ended up hiring 7 women to create all of our chain. And that was in 2015.
And that's still happening now?
Yes. COVID, it's interesting. COVID really did put a little
glitch.
But we have been in contact. I've sent one box and gotten one box back since COVID, and I promised them before the end of the year I would have them another box. So we're gonna.
Yeah, and I think that would be great. And I think making that story bigger and louder and visual.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think the visual is really important. We've talked to other people that are doing projects that people don't know about because they're so busy with life that they're not able to tell that story in a way that everyone can see it. And not for any other reason other than it just is so nice to hear and so nice to know. And it also creates those stories in other people because they go, that's such a good idea, we should do that, or whatever, without the big corporate, you know, entity getting it. Yeah, it is contagious. So I was so happy to read that story, and I can relate a little bit. I've not gone away and taught anyone anything, but I did go out into Rwanda and see all these kids that are raising themselves and supporting themselves by means of craft and making bags and doing what they do. But it's sustaining people, and it's doing good without and benefiting from it, but who's benefiting? Everyone's benefiting.
Everyone.
You know, and I think people would love to be wearing more where they felt that they've contributed to something. So that's a gorgeous story. Something else I didn't know about you too, and I'm not asking you to talk about this too much, but I don't know when this happened into relation to your life now. You became a single woman.
Yes.
And when was that?
Do you know I'm really terrible with dates and times? So this is maybe someone else will relate to that. But truly, someone asked me that the other day. I was like, oh my goodness, how long has it been? I think it's been 2 years.
So not very long.
Final, or maybe 2.5 years final. We separated in 2020 during just a really terrible, difficult time. And, you know, it took some time, maybe a year to get through it. So it's still very fresh, very new.
I mean, how long have you been married?
We were married almost 21 years.
Which is just insane. And you have children?
I have children. I have a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old.
And is it a boy and a girl?
Boy
Yeah,
and
your beautiful daughter. I don't think I've seen your son, but I've seen your daughter.
Kate is off at college.
So yeah, that's like a lightning bolt from the side.
Oof, and that was a long time working through, coming in.
This is still fresh. This is new.
Oh,
right?
it's very, for me, it is. I just having to work through it while everything else, while life continues, work and children.
And COVID.
Yes, and COVID. And I have been slower to process things emotionally, for sure, but in a good way. I feel like it's been a deeper, more thorough process for me than I really knew to expect.
Well, credit to you in the fact that, and obviously we know each other, but not personally, and we haven't hung out nearly enough. Just putting that out there. That you did it. You've gone through this so elegantly in the fact that it's not an ugly news story. And, you know, our lives aren't private anymore. It's all over the world, right? It's all over the internet. And especially during 2020 when we talked about the dirt under our toenails, like literally there was nothing left undiscussed because we had nothing else to do. What did you eat today? What did you eat today? Yeah. And all that kind of thing. And where are you buying your toilet paper? Remember those days? Meet you on 4th. They're selling it out the back of their car. But so with all that going on, sorry to add humour to it, but
it's perfect.
But so I had no idea. And you know, there's not much now that goes past us. But what I did notice was your change from all things bright and breezy online. And I noticed that you became much more spiritual, much more open, much more emotional, publicly emotional. Clearly you're a crier like me, and that's good. You're in good company. But yeah, so how have you managed to not only maintain your business, but grow it? I mean, I know you work incredibly hard. I know right now is a super busy time. But you're growing your business, you're growing your brand, you're meeting more, you know, you're touching more people. Was there a need? I mean, financially, is it like, now I need to hustle?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that. And then, yeah, your emotional recovery. Yeah, talk about the business and talk about you and what 2 things have you had to do for yourself and also your children to survive this, but not just survive it, but to grow out the other side.
So part of my tears before is the idea of befriending your shadow or befriending your pain or befriending the parts of you that you've buried or not really been willing to face. And part of my story and part of the little Ansley that I didn't talk about before was I was in a very tight system of evangelical Christianity. So I grew up in not only evangelical, Southern Baptist evangelical, and not only that, super conservative Southern Baptist.
Now I know why you wanted to be so eclectic in your wardrobe. That's the only control you had.
Well, it's actually where I found my freedom in the sense that no one could tell me my creativity was right or wrong, and no one could put that in a box. So I found my freedom through creativity. Everything else had a right and a wrong and a clear way of doing it, or else you're out. And a clear way of not only just rights and wrongs, but just the clear way of thinking about or approaching.
It's a rule book.
Yes, it's a rule book that can only be approached from one direction, and that was very defining for me. But in my free little soul, in the true Ansley, she was an explorer, an adventurer, a seer of all colors. And I think the black and white really was difficult for me. But other than my wardrobe, kind of had to stuff that person down. And I was also really afraid of rejection, really, because when you get it wrong in that environment, you're getting it real wrong. It's a bleak outcome.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fear around that.
Yes.
And so I overcoming my fear, and that's the part even of my marriage. So we met in that environment and really had a relationship kind of enmeshed with that belief system. And I honestly did not know. I didn't have the tools to untangle it. We also met when I was 13, and we really grew up and didn't grow up at the same time together. Yeah. And so there was a lot of untangling that needed to be done, and I won't speak for him, but I personally did not have the tools to untangle it. So, those are the things that I have been working on, is actually facing all of those, facing 5, 6, 7-year-old Ansley, like asking her to okay, come fully present to the party, because I need to kind of get to know you without that system. And so a lot of my increased creativity has come from realizing that I lost a lot of my soul in someone else's system. Yeah. And so as I've rediscovered her, my creativity has expanded. It's grown as I've grown more connected to myself, my true self. It has a direct one-to-one correlation with being connected in your creativity.
I feel like, though, what you're describing is the more you heal, the brighter your light is. So
absolutely,
you're just opening up. It's like a flower, isn't it? And it sounds like such a cliche, but the way when you're talking, I'm getting a visual representation of what you're talking about. I'm seeing this like beacon of light, and I think that people say, "Oh, I'm not creative." It's such a shame, isn't it? What an outlet, what a way to heal. And I don't necessarily believe that people aren't all creative. I think we're all creative in different ways. Some can be creative with the truth, and some can be creative with a paintbrush. It depends on who you are. But I love that, and I need to watch more of it. I love that. I feel like I'm seeing your healing journey, and you can call it creativity, but that's what it is.
100%.
And you're just kind of spilling it out here and there in all the ways. And but that I love that.
Yes.
I love it. And
it's very messy.
You can literally see me go online, start with one tangent, go all the way around the house, and to go, what were we talking about? And and that's it at the end of it.
It's been the most beautiful journey for me because I got really, whenever you start anything new and creative, and I wanted to mention when people say they're not that creative, what they're actually saying is I'm not that artistic. Mm-hmm. And I think just pointing that one fact out to people, it's like, oh, I'm using the wrong word. And that might seem subtle, but actually it has huge ramifications. Yeah. So you might not be artistic. I'm not artistic in lots of ways, but I'm creative and so are you. And let's just find out how, and then a soulful way for you to connect to that creative expression in a way that loves and serves the world. Then you're living the enough that everyone is seeking. And so as soon as I realized that in like a deeply personal, full way, yes, we can call this whole thing healing because that's what it is. I kind of had this realization, epiphany. Like, yeah. I can help. And that's takes a lot of courage to be able to say that, because then all the like imposter syndrome, comes on like, well, who am I to help? I'm kind of, this is broken. I don't look at my life.
It's the broken ones that fix things. It's being able to share that and being able to verbalize it and not being afraid to expose yourself.
Totally.
That helps people heal. I think the She All I Am Is Me group that came about as a marketing exercise turned into me, who was totally afraid of women, totally avoided women my entire life, was ostracized by women. Now I'm a facilitator of women. It wasn't meant to be that, because I'm so honest. Yes. I've been told my honesty is my bad point by so many people in time, but my honesty is open doors to people that I just didn't know. And more people come to me privately than they do online. Same. Just because I'm giving them permission. Oh God, if she can make a fool of herself, I certainly can start to address that. I love that. I also, on a business point of view and just in a life point of view, there are many women at your young age that find yourself in this situation right now. Too many.
So many.
It's always, I think, if we have a predestined life, and I think some things are meant to be, and I don't believe in living with regret. So it's happened. We're here, and you're doing what you do, and you're making not just the best of it, you're making it glow brightly with glitter. But how have you survived? You're a mum, you've got kids, you've got a house, you've got a life, you've got to pay the rent, there's huge medical bills, this is the US of A. So how are you managing? What did your business look like? Was it a life-sustaining business, or did you suddenly have to turn it into one? I mean, we have these like boutique businesses. Was it already a business where you thought, I can live off of this business? Right. Or did you have to turn it into that?
No, mine, it was definitely, well, in my mind, and this is where mindset comes in, right? It was a support income. Mm-hmm. Not really,
Same.
But
I pay for nice things. I pay for stuff.
Right, totally.
But
since I never had to think of it like a full-time business, I didn't. But I also had a lot. When I say a lot, I mean like, really a lot of limiting beliefs around my abilities to have and own and anything with strategy, business, numbers. I, in my mind, had everybody saying, you just stick to pretty things. Just stick to pretty things. Just make the pretty things, and then everybody just touch it with your glitter, And no. I actually, just had to kind of own my greatness in the sense of like, I'm actually very smart and I can strategize. And so I would say the past 3 years, I've been on a very intense journey of totally redefining what Dora Mae is. And it is no longer just a place I go to get my creative, whatever, sparks out. It is actually, I want it to be and believe it is, and it can even be more so, a full, thriving, and owning, yes, the money part, the financial part, shifting all my beliefs around money, which were not great.
Well, it's shame.
Yeah.
And it makes sense where you come from, and you know, and
well, money. I was terrified of money because it was the root of all evil.
yeah, of course.
And so
having material things. I don't actually believe God or Jesus ever told us that we weren't allowed to have wealth. It's
no, never one time.
No. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with wealth. It's about, you know, what you do with it and how you share it, and, you know, paying it forward.
The verse also says it's the love of money that's the root of all evil.
Yes.
So that's like, and then you can't even take that at surface value, because you can't really take any of that at surface value. It's really important to go a little bit deeper and understand, like, if it's all consuming and if it's really is your, like, leading your entire life, well, yeah, it causes a lot of really shitty things.
Well, I think it's interesting too. There is, what I do love, and the difference between the English and American culture is success is applauded here more than we support the underdog. True. In the UK, and so you know, there are many entrepreneurs over there, and I know many people in business, but it's a clap on the back here rather than and then I think there's a clap on the back to a point, and then people like try and knock your legs out, you know. Like,
that's actually real.
Human nature, you see it. People like to build you up to knock you down, but I do feel like there is that, you know, freedom here that to go out and grow in success, and we are inundated with tools, and, you know, just touch on the tools that you've tapped into in order to change your mindset or help you change your mindset. I mean, wanting to and having to is, you know, is two different things. So you've had to, and you want to grow and you want to be successful, and in root of what's happened to you as it empowered you. I feel the power from you even now, just in your presence. Oh, yeah. I
am just, you know, something really wild happens when you face the full truth. And I love that you even said the word truth, but whenever you're pushing it down and pretending, there's talk about a power drain, right? And so I was pretending I call myself, in the first half of my life, an escape artist. And if I ever write an actual memoir, that will be the title of it, because I knew just how to escape enough the reality, because I didn't want to be trapped in pain all the time. Yeah. And so I could escape all of that pain, but I was an artist too. But what happened there is that I was an artist disconnected from her truth. And so coming into like full connection with all the dark parts of me that aren't so shiny and pretty, and also at the same time helps me come into connection with all of the brightest parts of me even more. And people say this to me a lot, like, oh, you're just so happy and you're just like laughing all the time. And I'm like, you know, that's actually not true, and I'm showing
there's an irony in that. I think about Robin Williams and people like that. You know, they say
true.
It's a very good mask.
It's a great mask,
and we use humor to deflect so many things. I mean, I'm so self-deprecating, and I have to stop. And it's something I probably need therapy. I know I do, but because and even our producer here has told me I'm always putting myself down, but I do it in a funny way. I know that's called trauma. I'm old enough to know that. But yeah, and I think now that you're sharing, and I'm seeing that, I think that you put enough glitter in front of you to stop people asking the big questions. That's why. Totally. Your bright, shiny demeanor was a barrier.
Absolutely. And a barrier from my own self.
Protecting yourself.
And from my own, like, I didn't want to acknowledge it. But the thing that I found out, and this has been the most life-changing thing, and I think the reason why business even, because it affects everything. It affects my relation with my children, my business, everything. It's like my whole container of my soul, of who I am, got wider, because as I expanded my ability to deal with pain, it's the same container as joy. So now what's so cool is that when you see my joy, it's such an authentic, or so much more of an authentic joy, because it is actually equally matched by the pain I've been willing to face. And I am an open book, and I love that you said people come to you privately, because it's the same with me. I think people connect.
There's a high vibration personality.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of one-on-ones going on in my life with where I'm discussing the pain that I can't necessarily talk about publicly because I have children, and but where I can really dig deep and go there, and that has allowed me to see, oh my goodness, this whole, like, to the extent, is it Brene Brown, like to the extent you know, suppress your pain, you also suppress your joy, and so the opposite is true, and I'm living proof that is reality. So all of this joy now in this, like, post-divorce, I don't want to say post-religion because it's still a really important part of my life. It just looks very, very different now, and is more authentic to me. And so my spirituality is, before it was someone, like I said, as somebody else's system, and it didn't work for me. So.
And what tools are you using? How, who did you reach out to? Where did you go? I mean,
that's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, immediately I imagine friends and family, but who was your life support?
I guess I love that you use the word support. I didn't believe I was worthy of support. And I believed all of the narratives told to me about me. And in that tradition growing up, it's like ultimate depravity. You are like absolute piece of filth and deserving of nothing, except for if you follow this certain belief system, then you're going to be made okay. But on your own, you're nothing. And I had that was so deeply ingrained. I mean, because from childhood.
I mean, they say in the first 6 years of life or 5 years, whatever, what you are taught and learned, that stays with you forever. That's the basic.
Yes.
That's the scratch card marked, like forever.
So I learned that, or I started believing, is what I really should say.
Even if you don't consciously know it.
No, you don't consciously
It's ingrained
know it.
in you.
It's subconscious.
Yeah.
So I really started to believe that I was worthy of support, and just by being who I am. And my new phrase of, like, as of this month, I'm saying support is a lifestyle. Yeah. Because I never want to do anything without support again. And I was so fiercely independent, thinking that's what made me strong, and it's what made me weak. So, like, turn everything upside down. And vulnerable, exactly. So I went to therapy for a long time. So I had a lot of support, and it was somebody who understood my faith background, but didn't need me to, like, adhere strictly to its, tenets to be acceptable, because I'd been to some of those therapists too. Yeah. So I found someone who I could be fully free and fully myself with. So that was wonderful. I started being a lot more authentic and vulnerable in my relationships and my close relationships. I also started to go a lot deeper with a few. And I think I before had a ton of friends, and after the divorce, it was just like, I
have the fair weather friends, right?
I needed that deep, like, are you going to go there with me? And there was only a few of those, as there should only be a few. So I feel like that was a big shift for me in my life, and I haven't looked back.
It's funny because somebody said to me recently, and I don't know them very well, but they said, when they meet me, there's no small talk. And I just go straight into the deep,
real
meaningful
stuff.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize that about me. I'm sorry, but that on a certain level, when I'm surrounded by people, and you said something earlier, and I'll have to try and remember what it was. But when I'm surrounded, it's not being real. I think that's exhausting for me. So when I'm in a room with like the bazaars and stuff we've been doing lately, it knocks me for 6. I am so tired when I leave the space, especially when I dress up and everyone's so shocked to see me with makeup on and stuff. They're like, oh, you're wearing red. And, and I'm walking around the room, and being dressed up is the mask. I told you about the camera being my protection, and I only discovered that about me when I was talking to you on the phone. And but when I am real and I'm honest, what I've discovered is the people fall away from me. I've been through a couple of years of serious grief. The person's still in this world, but they're not in my life, and they should be, and so it's devastating. And people want you to get over it, and they want you, and I'll never get over it. There's no getting over it, and I'm very tenacious, and I'm not giving up on that person ever for as long as I live. It does put everything else into perspective to the point that the big things aren't big anymore. They're actually just life, and there's only one big thing. But I'm not going to apologize for how I feel. If my sadness or my grief makes you uncomfortable, I'm sorry about that, but I have that. You either love me with it or you don't love me. That's how I feel. So I think that it takes a devastating thing to happen to you for you to not be so concerned about other people's opinions. I don't want anyone to ever feel bad around me, and I'm not going to walk into a bright, shiny party with my grief and ruin it for everyone. But love me for this, or you don't love me, and I'm okay with that. And just finding those people. And, I don't want to sit in a room that's really sad every day and cry. And I still have guilt about being happy. I have guilt about laughing and having a good time. Maybe I should change my wardrobe, but maybe it made me feel better. But you know what I mean? I'm afraid to have fun, and I'm afraid to enjoy life. So yeah, I think that I love that you represent joy to me, but I love that I'm finding out this new side of you and seeing more of you. And I think it's really, really important for you to share all of your layers, because you're doing something wonderful for people around you that you don't realize.
I'm dealing with something this week that I feel like you understand this, is that and maybe anybody understands with any new creative act they're bringing into the world, but there's a lot of temptation towards self-sabotage because we
destroy it, then we don't have to do anything about it.
Right. And one of mine is the fear of my past life or childhood's life criticism and judgment, because that, like I said, when it's in like the soil, like the cell's soil,
it's your DNA.
It's your DNA. Then it's really hard to like overcome that fear. Well, I have realized I'm pushing off this book or course or community that I know that has like overflowed out of me. Yeah. Because of fear of all of that rejection, criticism, judgment, whatever you want to say, being talked about behind your back, and I'm like, wait, I'm being talked about behind my back right now. I'm still alive.
Give them something to talk about.
I'm still alive, like I'm still here.
It was when they stop talking about you. That's when you got a problem. Make noise. Yeah, be the gossip.
Oh my goodness. So but it hit me this week. I'm self-sabotaging. I have so much to give, and I'm not giving it because of that fear. And because of, my truest, most authentic, most vulnerable self, it does push away some people, and that's okay.
Do you know what that is? It is okay, but it's a mirror.
Right.
It makes them see themselves. Right. And this is a very frivolous thing, but I saw it it was tangible in front of me. I stopped drinking for the whole of 2020, no alcohol. And, we live in a very social environment. So that, alcohol was life here, it's every day. And it was before COVID happened, but I decided not to drink for a year. People were actually aggressive with me.
I don't doubt it.
And I was so shocked. And I wasn't doing it to be better than anyone else. I was doing it because I needed to be better.
Good for you.
Yeah, and I knew it was a problem, and and now I'm getting older, and it's true. As you get older, you really can't drink anymore. But
it's true.
You get older.
Half a glass of Prosecco.
I mean, literally, that knocked me out yesterday. But yeah, you get older, you get wider. You're not allowed to drink. You're not allowed to eat. You're like, what can I do? So you just get deeper into yourself and become spiritual, because that's all we have left.
It's true.
But do the thing.
Do the thing.
Just do
the damn thing.
Well, Mel Robbins said that.
Yes, I love
and
that.
That's why we're sat here today with microphones in my face.
Really?
Yes. She said that. She went, stop talking about it. Stop thinking about it. Just go do the damn thing. Do the damn thing. You have been an absolute joy.
Oh, thank you.
I've loved having you here.
It's wonderful.
We're coming back and you're going to talk about your book and its launch date and all of those things next time.
Thank you. I
Where
need that
can
push.
people... Yeah. I will push you. I'm tenacious. I'm coming to just shoot your front cover. Tell me where people can find you, what they should be looking for, and what's next for you?
Well, obviously, I've got my jewelry company, Dora Mae Jewelry. That's wonderful. I love the community around that. But where I'm really pushing myself to grow and practicing what I know is my next phase in life is at On Being Creative on Instagram. So it is still very messy and very beginning, but there's something really exciting about that for me because I've been in one version of creativity for a long time that I've grown accustomed to and comfortable with, and I feel confident with. I am expanding into a new area that feels terrifying and
uncomfortable, which is a good place to be.
Which is where I'm writing this book from. So I am writing it to myself first and foremost, the book I need to read and to be in the rhythm of understanding and knowing, because creativity is not one of those things you ever arrive. It is a rhythm of your entire life. And so I am writing that rhythm into my life, and in a time when I am vulnerable and I'm unsure and there are more unknowns than there are knowns, that is the time to practice, because when you got it all together, that's not, no one wants to hear. People want to hear, how do I get from anxiety? How do I take my anxious energy and transform it into creative energy? Because guess what? We're all living in anxious energy. We all deal with that. So can it be transformed into creative? Abso-freaking-lutely it can. So, and I can help. So learning how to share that, learning how to put words and language behind really mysterious and mystical kind of truths and realities, it's a vulnerable place to be, because it's not like I can look to someone else and say or I'm going to follow this. No, this is a true creative original act. And so I'm practicing what I'm preaching. And so if you follow along at On Being Creative on Instagram, it's more of this community where I would love feedback. I would love to be a part of a conversation to understand where people are.
Well, listen, I think this format would be beautiful for you too.
Yes.
So when you launch your book and your podcast and all the places, you've made many people's hearts sing. I know people are going to listen to this and they're going to get a lot from it. So keep sharing those words.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you came and shared them with me today. Thank you so much, Ansley.
Wonderful.
That was amazing.